Well, another special feature coming to you courtesy of Clocking the Gallop, and you would recognize his face because Christopher Santos and I, a few weeks ago, were in the rain at quite a dark Rheinkiesfontein. It's much lighter where we are here now and in the confines of our homes, but it's great to have him on board. He, of course, was talking about the Race Ready Syndicate, which he had formed. And that was a few weeks ago when we advertised it to all our Clocking the Gallop fans. And Chris Santos, I'm happy to report, and you're happy to report, that there have been a few takers of that offer of yours, and they'll be in the parade ring with you on Summer Cup Day with your horse another level.
Yes, 100%. Very exciting. The guys obviously saw the video that you and I did. And a couple of guys got in touch. Some of them just wanted info. They were interested in how it all was going to work. And some guys have taken the plunge. So we've added a couple more guys to the syndicate, thanks to the show and Clocking the Gallop and you. And the guys that have just bought in will have their first racing experience on Saturday, on Summer Cup Day. So you couldn't ask for a better start.
No, you couldn't ask for better. And it was great for the stable today, as we spoke earlier, that they had turned the corner with a winner today. The filly won particularly well, I thought, because I thought that she was only really getting into her stride at the finish anyway.
Yes, Lady Regent won a good race. We stepped up in distance because it looked like that's what she wanted. I was slightly disappointed she didn't win her last start. After competing in the sales races as a maiden. I thought she was close to a good thing last time, but just got a little bit one-paced, it seemed, in the last bit of that 1600. So the step up today is what we thought she wanted. Although I don't think her pedigree 100% suggests that she does want that. But just in the way she was racing, we thought she'd like the extra ground, and she delivered today. In what was potentially a hot maiden, because there were two fancied horses.
Yeah, there were two fancied horses. I mean, Sage's horse wasn't drawn that well, and lots of money for Palmazelis, but she's been disappointing before. She continues to disappoint because I see the money did pour on her, but very good all the same. Just for the stable's perspective, going into a big day, you'd want a winner at the most recent meeting prior to the big day.
Yes, yeah, it seemed like things had just dipped off a little bit for Candice's yard in the last week or two.
Yeah.
And going into the Summer Cup, I think everyone was just a little bit worried about what might be going on. Don't want to say that dreaded V word that all the trainers hate. But yeah, to get the horses all ran place. I think they all earned stake checks on Tuesday, which was a nice little improvement. And then today, unfortunately, she had one scratched at the start and one scratched before racing even started. And she had one runner today and 100% strike rate. So you can't ask for better going into a big race day.
So let's talk about another level, and let's quickly bring up the flyer that you sent out, and we happily distributed on your behalf to potential investors, and I call them investors. Probably investors is the wrong word, because whilst you may expect a return, and everyone's hopeful for a return, it's not always the case. I suppose it's about having fun in a syndicate, and this was the original flyer that you developed. And what it is an annual cost, isn't it? Outlay, there's an annual cost which basically buys you a share of the horse plus the cost for 12 months. Or until, not 12 months, until the end of the season, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's until the end of the season. It's not essentially 12 months, as you say. I think it's easier to run them by seasons, because sometimes when horses get to the end of the season, owners like to move them on. So I think the end of the season is a nice place to shut it down, basically, as August is generally quite quiet. So yeah, this was the initial offer, as we said. He was offered up till the 31st of July, which is end of this season.
Yes.
And the first guys who bought into him started off with a winner. So the syndicate has 100% strike rate. One runner, one winner.
Well, that's when I interviewed you, but that's when I had seen your name pop up in the ownership.
The race squad, yeah.
And I'd interviewed you at Turffontein prior to the race, and I liked him strongly that day, hence the reason why I interviewed. Yes. But he did win well, and he's a very progressive horse, lovely looking horse too.
Yes, he's kind of the reason why I chose him. He started his racing career late. He had not issues, but he was a little bit soft and immature initially, and he just needed to strengthen up and fit his mass, basically, because he's quite a big, strong horse.
Yeah.
So yeah, once he started racing, He hasn't looked back. He's just started progressing through the divisions. And what's been nice as well is Candice has put him in the right races. So he's getting full 6 points when he wins, but he's meriting those 6 points. His
Yes.
last one I thought was very smart. Keegan was very complimentary of him, and he even said it might not have looked super impressive in the replay, but it was very wet, and had it been dry, he says he's turned a footy. He thinks he would have won a lot easier.
Yeah.
So he's very upbeat about the horse. We do have him to beat actually on Saturday, as he's got a ride for his boss
Yes.
on Bon Vivant. And the form lines behind Bon Vivant are very strong. But she does take on the boys, and I know she has and done so successfully. But that was over 1,200. So I'm hoping over 1,400 against the boys, we got a chance. He is progressive. He's doing everything the right way, and I think his biggest negative on the weekend is his draw. We've elected to take our chances, partly just to see how he goes from a wide draw 1,400 as it fits into some of the races that we're looking at for him in the new year. So we decided to take our chances and see how he goes.
Just very quickly, the concept of your syndicate is to buy horses in training, and we saw another example of Justin Vermaak executing that brilliantly with Bonica down in Cape Town, where they now have a shot at the Cape Fillies Guineas, which comes up in a couple of weekends' time. But what he was saying was there was Bonica who had group form being sold for 300,000 rand, and for a first-time investor, and I suppose, it's always good to have a nice horse from the word go, but it's a very expensive exercise to buy them at the yearling stages and even as a 2-year-old unraced, because you don't know what they're going to end up being like. Whereas these horses, you know what you're paying for. So when you pay your 1% share, inclusive of the capital expense plus the trading fees until the end of the season, you know what horse you're buying. You know what it or he or she is capable of doing on the track.
Yes, as I always said, it's the best way to get people involved in racing. If they're buying something that's already in racing, the turnaround time for them to get a race day experience and maybe earn a check, maybe win a race, but to get a race day experience is just so much quicker. When you try to get people involved in racing and you get them to buy into a yearling, they got to wait 18 months for the horse to actually hit the racetrack. So by the time the horse is about a race, all that initial excitement, the initial gusto to say, I'm going to take a share in this is my racehorse.
It wanes. It does wane.
It doesn't fade completely, because obviously the guys go to the stables and they see the horse, but it is a slow process. I don't think we can get around that. There's no way to change that. And that leads to people buying precocious horses, and everyone wants to buy horses that are ready to run, instead of a classic horse, because they want something with a quick return. And not enough people spend, in my opinion, in this country. It's done well overseas, but in this country, not enough people buy horses in training. Even some of the big owners, they're willing to go spend $1 million because they're trying to find a stallion. But you ask them to buy a horse that's won 2 from 3 or something for 500 grand, and no, that's not worth it.
Considered like hand-me-downs, but it isn't really hand-me-downs, because these horses might not be in the right training yard with the right training regime, and different thinking. Each trainer thinks differently. I mean, if you and I took out a trainer's license, God forbid, we would train.
We'd have terrible stats, Nick. I can tell you that right
stats
now.
because we don't know how to train horses. But ideally, we know how to play. I'd like to think we know how to place horses, and we know like what distance they're up to, and how to run them, and from what draws and which jockeys to put on, all of that sort of thing. But in terms of what you're looking at, of buying these horses, just a quick one: are you looking at spreading across yards, or just staying with Candice, or just going all over?
No, I do want to go all over. I started with Candice, as I've always said, with another level. He wasn't planned to be the first horse, and I actually jumped into things a little bit quicker. That's why my website's not set up or anything as yet. But there was an opportunity to buy into him that arose, and it was actually through one of my clients that lives in Germany. And just knowing the horse that he was and being close to the yard and my father-in-law having a share in him and having bred him, it was just an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. But it was the right horse to start everything off, and he proved that first time out. He won a very good race. It looks progressive. He might be a small feature horse, and that's what I think he's going to build into, and that's why I was keen to get him on board and make him the first horse.
Yeah.
You mentioned that sometimes you got to buy horses and change yards or whatever. It's if you look at someone like Justin Vermaak and myself and guys that are buying horses in training or try, I'm essentially buying shares in horses. I'm not going to own, as you said, for the syndicate and saying I want to buy the whole horse. I'm trying to partner up and use my networks to get into horses that owners potentially wouldn't sell otherwise. Because sometimes you try to buy a horse and they're not interested in selling. But if you approach the owner and say, listen, I've got the syndicate, we're trying to bring people into racing. Can I buy 10% at this value? I think it's a decent value. And they agree on that value.
Yeah.
Well, they'll agree on that value for 10% share.
Yeah. Nothing ventured.
But if you have to say to them, I want to buy your horse for this, they'd say, no, I want more. Yeah. So essentially, when we're looking at horses, we're all trying to find an edge. Justin is exceptionally good at it. He's done it for Lawrence Werners very successfully. And I think it's having an eye for racing and having an eye for horses. Sometimes you can just watch a race, pick something out very early on and say, jeepers, that's promising. You've got to watch that horse. Or, I mean, as punters, we do it. That came flying. That goes in the black book, if you know what I'm saying. And Justin's been very successful in it. And if you take Anfield's Rocket that was just purchased by Hollywood, it's a similar scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can tell you now, it wasn't only Hollywood that were after that horse. There were a couple of people, including myself, throughout his career so far. From his first, second start, there were guys after him. So I don't think enough owners do it. If you can find the edge and you can find opportunities, that's the gist of it. And we got to be more open to these opportunities. I know people want to buy their horse at the sales and find that champion at the sales, but in terms of business in racing and trying to mitigate some of the risks, it's a lot easier doing it this way.
Right. A final question before we go is if anyone is interested, and unfortunately I don't have your all your details up here, but how does one contact you to find out more about another? Have you still got shares in another level for start?
Yeah, we still got a couple of shares left in him.
Okay.
We've been working on a horse for a while. I'm just kind of trying to time it so that it happens as the website gets up and running, which that seems to be about a week away.
Right.
But yeah, there are still a couple of shares in him. You can purchase a racehorse today on a Thursday and have a run on a Saturday.
Right. So if anyone sees this Thursday night, Friday, they can contact you.
Exactly. Get the computer form, study the race. If you think he's got a chance,
yeah.
Go. It's not all about this one race though. As I said, we're using this race partly to see how he goes from a bad draw in case we do get a bad draw down the line and we can make a decision whether to run or not over the same track and trip.
Yeah.
So as I said, it's not just about this race. We think he'll be a feature horse. He's a horse we've earmarked a couple of features, including down in the Durban season. There are a couple of shares left. There are a great bunch of guys that are involved. Some of them are personal friends of mine. And the nice thing is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, every single shareholder is a first-time racehorse owner.
Oh, really?
Which is something that's close to me. I could easily have taken another level and gone to a couple of my clients and sold them up quickly. But it's about, for me, it's trying to get people involved and get them into the game and enjoying it. That's the gist of it. That's why I've started this, and I want to give back in some sort of way. That's why I'm doing this.
Please tell people how to contact you. What's the easiest way?
Yes. The website's not up yet, so you could either email me. It's chris@racereadysynd.co.za, or my phone number is available as well. I can get in touch with you, or
I'll put them on the description. So if you're looking on Clocking the Gallop, you'll find the description of the actual video. I will put Chris's details down, and you can contact him as soon as before Saturday, before another level runs again. Chris, always great catching up with you. Just before you go, I know you're a jockey's agent, so you're always looking at race cards, you're always booking rides with jockeys, and you're always studying as a punter too. Betway Summer Cup Saturday, who are you leaning towards?
It's just also really like I saw him live in the flesh when he won the Daily News. Just the way he went down that day is always been an impressive horse to look at. So Safe Passage, I think he had a great prep. Mark knows exactly what he's doing. And although he is, I think, fairly short and a favourite, he's probably the horse I'd land on. Of the longer price horses, I wouldn't look past Sean Terry. I was looking earlier at the past. I came across a tweet that had all the past winners, and if I'm not mistaken, he's won 4 of the last 5 Summer Cups or something.
Yeah, and he's won with not particularly short price horses. I mean, Flying Carpet won at a huge price last year.
Exactly. So he's a trainer if you're looking for an outsider. You got to have a closer look at his horses.
Yeah,
definitely. So I think it's a really good race. I think Mark de Kock's got a really strong hand, but it's a handicap. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. Everyone's got a chance to an extent.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there. I'm sure we'll bump heads there at Turf and Turn on Saturday. Thanks very much for your time, and let's hope that it takes off and there's more interest from all our followers and viewers on Clocking the Gallop.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. I appreciate the platform, and it's been a nice little journey getting to know some of the Clocking the Gallop subscribers and having them join us. And I'd hope we can do a lot more together, because there's a synergy between what I'm doing and what you're doing.
Put it this way, it's perfectly timed, because anyone that listened to our preview today, Thursday at the Val, would have a lot of extra cash to buy a percentage of a racehorse within the next 48 hours. That I can assure you, because I've had a lot of fan mail during the course of the afternoon. Chris Santos, thanks very much as always, and all the best with another level on Saturday.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. See you on Saturday.
Yes, bye.